Imagine waking up from a very deep sleep, finding out that someone who looked like you, potentially spoke like you, felt the same emotions that you did, lived an entire life potentially in your place. They loved someone. They fought for that love. They fought the person that you both love, and they ironically died for that love. And now all those memories, they might be coming back to you. That's where Moegi could find herself in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. Konohamaru is about to unseal her using the Thorn Soul Bulb of Matsuri, her Shinju clone. And Matsuri, she wasn't just a mindless enemy. She was deeply in love with Konohamaru. Love that wasn't hers. Instead, it was love that was born forth from Moegi's own hidden emotions. So the question is, when Moegi wakes up, will she remember? And if she does, how will it change everything between her and Konohamaru? Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video where your OBC, your original Boruto chief, breaks down for you why you should care about whether or not Matsuri's memories are retained by Moegi since she's made from her chakra, especially if you are a fan of Sasuke Uchiha, who has a Ten Tails clone named Hidari. Also, we are officially on spoiler watch right now, which means that the spoilers for the chapter, they can drop at any moment. So make sure you're subscribed and you keep notifications turned on. Also tonight, the community section of the channel, I'm going to leave a response post for you guys to leave your predictions for chapter 25. So if you want to be featured in the community response video, leave the comments here tonight around 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will record that probably on Monday or Tuesday, depending on what my workflow looks like. Also, the chapter officially drops on the 20th this month, so depending on when we get the leaks, the review may be out on the 20th or it may be out on the 22nd because the chapter review editor needs 2 days to maintain the quality you guys have gotten for 2 Blue Vortex reviews, because we don't care about being the first with the review. I want the reviews at a certain quality that you guys have gotten with 2 Blue Vortex chapters, and I also want the chance to double check translation since the official translation is not always 100% correct, since Japanese to English isn't a word-for-word language, and there's a lot of context left to the discretion of the translator. Boruto does have one of the better translations. It's not dookie water like Jujutsu Kaisen and parts of My Hero Academia, which is why my reviews sometimes will say things that are slightly different than the official. I'm throwing that out there for new viewers because each month I do get those questions. So jumping right in, we know based on a sneak peek that in chapter 25, Konohamaru is beginning the process of unsealing Moegi. That method that we know is returning the chakra that is stored in Matsuri's Thorn Soul Bulb back to Moegi's body. That is why with the Thorn Soul Bulb, if you look at it, it looks like he's piercing the part of the trunk that is going to go to the chakra node closest to her heart. That is why. An important detail is that in Boruto's 9th anniversary Q&A, Mikio Ikimoto, the Boruto illustrator, confirmed that the Shinju's emotions and personalities, they reflect the true feelings of the original person. So with Ryu, he's like how he is because that's how Shinki truly is. With Matsuri, her love for Konohamaru that was so strong and obsessive, that is Moegi's real feelings for Konohamaru. She just hides it. That explains why she got so jealous and upset when she was worried whether or not a younger woman in Ada, who was 16 at the time, was gonna make Konohamaru get nosebleeds and everything because she heard, hey, there's this very beautiful girl coming into the village that everybody's simping over. I really like this Konohamaru guy. I hope he doesn't act like a blubbering buffoon. Lord knows that's exactly what happened. But basically, those are Moegi's true feelings for Konohamaru. In battle, Matsuri's jealousy over Moegi when they're having the conversation, it becomes her weakness and it's something that clouded her judgment. Konohamaru himself even faltered because of love. He admitted in the chapter without saying her name that only Moegi could call him Konohamaru-chan. He was visibly disturbed each time that Matsuri said it, which is part of why I think that the Shinju might have a distorted voice that is similar to the person that they're cloned from. But even if that's not the case. Just the fact that Konohamaru really knows that she's made from Moegi, that is a mental nerf that happened. Jura commented that both of them were defeated by love. Matsuri was made vulnerable because of it, and Konohamaru was unable to deal out the finishing blow because of love. That line, it was deliberate, and you could argue it was also foreshadowing. It wasn't just because Jura is just on the side quest right now where he wants to learn about love, which if he really wants to learn about love, he just needs to pick up one of Jiraiya's books and he'll learn a lot about love. So if Moegi remembers Matsuri's life and emotions, every moment between Konohamaru and Matsuri, it will be hers to recall. This creates a awkwardness and an unspoken tension. Moegi would know Konohamaru deceived Matsuri, that he fought her and saw her deepest feelings laid bare, and she would also see the way that when Matsuri is crying, Konohamaru pulled back on the destructive power of his Rasengan. There's emotional fallout here. Is Konohamaru drawn to her because of Matsuri's actions, or is it because of her herself? They would need to face those feelings directly. That would give us a earned romantic development instead of a sudden reveal like Asuma and Kurenai, which in Naruto's manga, they just kind of popped up out of nowhere, where you saw them and they were fighting Asuma and Kurenai, and you go, okay, well, they're jonin, so of course they're comrades. But then when they're visiting Kakashi in the hospital, you're like, wait a second, why are they so lovey-dovey? And then you find out after that, like, Kurenai's like, hey, yeah, we really need to talk to you. It's like, okay, she's pregnant. When did this happen? And then sure enough, it gets confirmed that she was pregnant with Asuma's child. I don't know what the anime did. Again, I will make it 100% known. I've said it before. I've read Naruto's manga over 100 times. I have yet to see every Naruto anime episode because I'm one of those weird people. I prefer the manga over the anime for 90% of series I read. But I say that to say this. This would be something that actually sets up a earned payoff for a romantic development. And this kind of fits the fact that Ikimoto is better at writing female characters than Kishimoto was. Take away Tsunade's Sop backstory, and again, I'm just referring to the manga. Take away Tsunade's Sop backstory, Naruto females leave a lot to be desired. I don't count Naruto the Last because Naruto the Last wasn't written exclusively by Kishimoto. He literally brought in shoujo writers to assist him with it, and he would step in to make revisions. But basically, he gave the frame, they filled in the details, and then he sprinkled in some extra stuff on top of the details. So I said to say this could lead to some heartfelt scenes. It could potentially lead to a confession triggered by the memory of Matsuri's death. Boruto is a series, just as it's not afraid to tackle the question where does science fit in the world of shinobi, it also doesn't feel uncomfortable tackling the question of how does love factor in with the shinobi. And it really goes back to something that we were told in Naruto's manga. When a shinobi has someone or something that they love, it makes them stronger. So you do need to address this to a degree. And I do want to kind of play devil's advocate. What if Moegi doesn't remember anything? That's where dramatic irony would kick in. And if you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you've heard me use that phrase a lot. So we know everything that happened, but Moegi doesn't know. Hence, it's called dramatic irony, where the character and universe doesn't know, but we as readers know. Readers would be watching closely for very subtle changes in Konohamaru's behavior. Small gestures, maybe lingering looks, maybe a hesitation in speech. Maybe Konohamaru does something that we've never seen him do before, which is like Moegi goes to sit down and he stands up. We've never seen it, and shonen use a lot of cliches, so it's one of those things where the most cookie cutter thing you could expect, look for Konohamaru to do that if this is the case. And it could become loaded for the audience while being invisible to Moegi. That adds a bittersweet undertone to every interaction between them post-rescue after she gets unsealed. And there's also a bit of world building expansion. Naruto's manga established this idea. Chakra contains memories. We've seen it multiple times, from Itachi using genjutsu, which Sharingan genjutsu in general is a great example of this, but also Naruto when he was passing on his memories and Hashirama passed on his memories through chakra. We saw it also when Ashura and Indra's chakra was in Naruto and Sasuke. Even though they didn't remember what Ashura and Indra went through, they had a pull towards each other because of it. Matsuri and Moegi, they could be the most personal example scaled force in this instance. If chakra memories fully integrate here, this sets a precedent for a very emotional inheritance, in particular when it comes to love, grudges, and loyalty. It could pass from the clone to the original, the clone being Matsuri, the original being Moegi. It also adds a philosophical weight. If you inherit those memories, are they truly yours, or are they just an echo? Ideally, what would happen is those memories would make Moegi realize that she needs to confess how she feels to Konohamaru, or maybe Konohamaru grows a pair of balls and he teaches a lesson, since Boruto is a shonen and shonen are typically marketed for teenage boys. Hey, don't be afraid to let your balls hang. Ask the girl out and hopefully she doesn't kick you in the nuts hard enough where you regret it. A crude example, but that's how I always used to view it when I was in college and etc. If I saw a girl that I liked, I would go up, I'd talk to her, I'd try to get her contact information, and if she said no, her loss. If she said yes, I would leave those legs shaking after the fact. I might need to cut that. That's a little crude, man. But you get the point. That would be a really good lesson to just go for it. What's the worst going to happen? She says no. So speaking of no, that's a really good transition to, you guessed it, Japanese folklore parallels, because Matsuri, as we talked about before, was written like a female vengeful spirit, which are called onryu, which vengeful spirits, if you're into Jujutsu Kaisen, we talked about that earlier. That's the whole concept behind people becoming curses in Jujutsu Kaisen. So in Japanese folklore, a lot of these vengeful spirits are written as females, and they often arise from women who were betrayed, or they were abandoned, or they were scorned by a lover, or they died not being able to confess their love for somebody. A famous example is Oluwa from Yotsuya Kaiden. She was betrayed by her husband, she was poisoned, and she was left disfigured. Her spirit remained in order to torment him. Her wrath was born from love, and it turned into pain. Another example is Okiku from Ansho Sorayashiki, who was wronged by a man who she loved, and she haunted him relentlessly. Matsuri mirrors this archetype very well. She is not Moegi, yet she carries Moegi's love and her jealousy. Moegi's jealousy when she heard about Ada and saw Konohamaru perving out over Ada, and then you had Matsuri getting jealous when Konohamaru was obviously thinking about Moegi. All that was done intentionally. That's why you hear me say repeatedly, if you pay very close attention to Boruto, there's so many small mirror moments that just really make you pop, that reward you as a longtime reader. So her confrontation with Konohamaru, it was laced with that pain, that feeling like the other woman in her own life, made even more tragic by the fact that we know that she's just merely a Ten Tails clone. The tragic part, she was doomed from the start, because as a clone, she was meant to die all along. She was eventually going to get killed, and Moegi was going to get unsealed. This folklore lens, it reframes Matsuri as a symbolic vengeful spirit, not out to kill Konohamaru, but to force him to face love he didn't realize that he had. This isn't me necessarily reaching, because while this sounds like cool lore information to us over here in the West, because we didn't hear these stories, a lot of these stories are stories that if you were a kid growing up in Japanese, you heard them. If you went to any type of shrine or anything, you likely heard these stories. This ain't new stuff to people like them. Momotaro the Peach Boy is as common knowledge to a Japanese child as, say, us knowing about Paul Bunyan. So this makes a Konohamaru and Moegi romance feel fated, but also earned. Unlike, again, Asuma and Kurenai, where it was revealed in the most laissez-faire, lazy way ever. Again, Naruto's in my top 3 for manga. It's not my number 1 manga, but it's in my top 3. But even I can say, hey, like, that could have been done better. But Kishimoto admitted himself, he sucked at writing romance and he sucked at writing women. So here we witness a emotional buildup that could forge a very strong bond. If Moegi remembers, keyword being obviously if, she inherits the love story that Matsuri began. but with the agency to finish it. This could lead to a emotional confession where Konohamaru finally admits his true feelings. Maybe he parallels Asuma and Kurenai's role in guiding the next generation through the whole talk about the king and etc. But that will require Moegi getting pregnant, which probably won't happen. However, if she doesn't remember, readers are in on the secret. It adds layers to every scene. Konohamaru could try to protect her without explaining why. She might mistake it for overprotectiveness, and Moegi is a very strong-willed individual, so that could be the case. Eventually, someone could reveal to Moegi Matsuri's words, and it would create a dramatic mid-arc confrontation. That person would probably be Ada, because Ada has no filter when it comes to love. Either path, it builds on established chakra, in particular the memory lane aspect of chakra. It would deepen Konohamaru's character. It would give him a rare set of emotional stakes into Blue Vortex. It gives Moegi overdue development, finally putting her in a story arc in the manga that isn't just filler, because she didn't really do anything in the Boruto story. Anything you think about from the anime is basically filler or anime canon. Whether Moegi wakes up with a lifetime of borrowed memories or wakes up with nothing but the here and now, this unsealing could become one of the most quietly powerful character moments in Blue Vortex. And if Konohamaru and Moegi do end up together, it won't just be another Asuma and Kurenai reveal. It'll be a romance forged in the shadow of love, lost in a bond that refused to die even when the person wasn't even real. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, clicking here on the left to check out more Naruto Explained videos, or click here on the right to check out videos from my other two anime channels where I talk about non-Naruto content.